Alright, so I wanted to talk about this a little bit. There's this talk going around, right, about how GTA 6 is going to be, or at least how a lot of people would pay $100 for GTA 6, and to be honest, huge mistake. In my personal honest opinion, alright, it is just a huge fucking mistake. And I'll tell you exactly why I think it's a huge mistake, and also why, if GTA 6 is $100, or if games from now on start costing who knows how much, right? $80, $90, right? This is really bad. And I'll tell you exactly why. It's not that it's $10 more. That's not the problem. The reason I, personally, think it's a huge mistake is because if you increased your price to $100, your launch price to $100, you can say goodbye to anybody in the EU or smaller countries in the EU from buying your games. Straight up, say goodbye to everybody in smaller countries in the EU, from anybody in those countries from buying your game. I want you to understand something, especially if you're American. I know some of you guys who watch me, most of you are American or live in America or something, because I can see my YouTube analytics, right? A lot of Americans, right? If you're American, imagine if you had to pay $140 for a game. How does that make you feel? It makes you feel disgusted, right? Like, holy fuck, $140? What? Hell no, right? I would feel the exact same way, and I do. Because that's basically what we have to pay in these smaller countries due to regional, or rather lack thereof, regional pricing. There is no regional pricing anymore. Now, Steam, for instance, used to do this, I don't know much about this, but basically they used to do this thing where, developers or publishers who go and put their game on Steam, they could choose from tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 2 is for poorer countries and stuff like that, but they just they just refuse to do it. So you have to understand, for Americans, you guys, for you, it might be $60, right? Or $70. But for us, it's also €70, for instance, or €60, €70. Now, you might think, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that we get paid half as much as you do monthly. American minimum wage is what, $1,100, $1,200 or something? Or something along those lines a month? Ours is $600. Or it's in some countries $500. When we want to buy a title at launch, and that's €60 is looking us in the face, that is essentially what you would feel if you had to pay $140 or $120 for a video game. And a lot of people are paying this. A lot of people. The last time I bought a title at launch, Veilguard, Cyberpunk, Baldur's Gate 3, and Elden Ring. And I cannot remember the last time I bought any other, quote-unquote, AAA game for full price. I think the last time might have been Dragon Age Inquisition in 2014, I believe. That's how little I pay for AAA full price games. Now, there are other games that I've bought at full price that are not €60 or €70. But the fact of the matter remains, my point is that for poorer countries, it is way harder to dish out that amount of money. Because, again, Americans make 2 or 3 times what we make, right? So why the fuck are our games priced the same? Everything else, like the cost of living, might be lower in these countries, these poorer countries, but the cost of games isn't. It's fucked. And that's what I'm saying, right? It is already incredibly difficult, as I said, to dish out 60 or 70 euros for a title at launch. And if you're trying to, if you think that raising it to $100 is going to be a good thing, because you know that if they raise it to $100, they're gonna apply that same exact price across, like, you know, Steam, basically, to all the other countries as well. So it's going to be essentially, think about it like this. Imagine paying $200 for a video game. Yeah, exactly. You know, for people like this here, this is why I have this brought up here. Hot take, I'm actually fine with GTA 6 costing $100. Now, would you be fine with it if it cost $200? Probably not, right? Well, that's exactly what it feels like to us poorer countries. Where am I from, you might ask? Well, I'm from bumfuck Estonia. Goddamn Stonerland. It is what it is, but my point is, poor country. Shit country. Not worth visiting, trust me. But shit is poor here, okay? But games still cost the exact same number in euros for some reason. So if they raise their price to $100, it's 100% going to be on Steam for €100 for us as well. May I remind you that minimum wage here is like €600, I think. 650, something along those lines, I think. I haven't actually checked recently. I think it's around €600. You're trying to tell me if I had a minimum wage job that I would pay a sixth of my monthly salary on a video game, a single video game? Hell fucking no. Hell no. Not even close. There's a reason why I know people in real life who, they play some video games, but they never buy a game that is full price. They always wait for Steam sales. Like I said, it is already difficult for people to dish out €60, €70 in these countries. It is extremely difficult. It is a really pricey thing. And so you can best believe that if they increase the price to $100 or €100, as I said, you can say goodbye to most people in these countries buying any of your games. Straight up. Now, it would be one thing if, these publishers actually did regional pricing again, but they're not going to, let's be honest. Because most likely, the amount of people that they would lose by increasing the price to $100 would be more than made up by the fact that the people who are willing to pay $100 are, making up for the people who are not going to pay $100. Instead of selling 1 million copies of a product for $10, they would rather sell a product for $20 to maybe, I don't know, 700,000 people. I don't know the math here, but like, you get the point, right? They would rather up the price and sell to a smaller audience than to lower the price and sell for a bigger audience. And you see this all across the board, basically, in all kinds of products and mediums. I'm gonna buy the collector's edition most likely anyways, but yeah, standard edition should be $70, especially because we know GTA 6 Online is going to have microtransactions up the ass. Yep. $60 in 2005, almost. So, and this is another thing that a lot of people talk about. Inflation, right? Oh, games should be raising in price. Games are the only things that haven't raised in price over many, many years, like 20 years. The simple reason why games have not increased in price is because, one, they were already expensive, on the expensive side even back then. That I think we can all agree on. But two, as time went on, things got digital. right? They didn't need to do physical copies anymore. They didn't need to do physical marketing anymore, like physical stuff, like some people still do with their premium editions and like collector's editions and whatnot, right? But a lot of the physical, the physical distribution is gone now, right? They don't need to put money into making these products. They don't need to make these box sets anymore. And all of that needed money to make. So now they are making even more money. And I would say the entry of digital distribution basically offset the inflation cost, essentially. Because I would imagine a lot of that $60, right, went into like physical distribution, having to make the physical copy, the physical CD and everything, right? A lot of it went into that kind of like distribution. But once it went digital, then it was like, well, now we get a lot more profit again. And with digital distribution, games blew up massively. There's so many more people buying now than there were back in the day. So now the games that are $60, they're reaching way bigger audiences nowadays. In other words, that's way more money. It would be one thing if the physical media, if the physical CDs were still if they were still in, then they would have to spend more money for more product. But they don't. It's digital. They can just copy and paste. Doesn't take money to copy and paste. So they just sell more copies of digital information, digital code, and they make more money. That's why games are still $60, or used to be now. Now they're going to 70 and 80, right? But in my opinion, I think 60 is still fine. Completely fine. It's just that there's this bigger problem looming. This bigger problem of companies realizing that they can just increase their prices and people will still buy. Yep. I know, it sounds insane, but like, imagine if you're going to a grocery store, right? And you imagine you've been buying this cheese that you love forever. Like, for your entire life, you've been buying this cheese, and this cheese has slowly gotten more expensive, right? And now it's around, let's say, $5 or something along those lines, right? Now, let's imagine in this universe that there's only one cheese, and this is the cheese, right? Now, what would happen? I want you to think about this. What would happen if one day whoever makes this cheese, they just double their price? The cheese goes from $5 to $10. Would you keep buying it? You bear in mind, you've been buying this cheese for 20-something years. You've always been buying this cheese. You love this cheese. You've been eating this cheese for 20 years plus. Would you keep buying the cheese if there were no other cheeses? It's just $5 more, right? Even though it just doubled in price, most people will still buy because they really love that cheese. And the thing is, a lot of companies are realizing this. As long as your product is still affordable, they will increase their price because they realize people will still pay. Even if the price doubles, it doesn't really matter. And I think where this came from, where this increase in price came from, I think a lot of people don't actually know this, but this is where I personally believe it came from. And you'd be surprised about this. NBA 2K. Yep. The franchise. Yep. The basketball video game franchise. Yep. The reason I believe that's where it came from, where this price hike started from, is because NBA 2K essentially started doing something that I see a lot of companies doing nowadays. They increase their prices and make things more predatory, and they say fuck it. Enough said. They say fuck it to the consumer, to the customer, because they know that the customer will still pay. They straight up just go, fuck you, we don't care about your opinion. Even though everybody, their entire consumer base is screaming, this is too much. Stop doing it. Stop it. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, what they see is that the money is still rolling in. Well, why is the money rolling in? Because you're providing something that people want. Now, there's this saying that some people occasionally bring up, which is a product is worth what people are willing to pay for it. And personally, I completely disagree here. There's some truth to it, of course, but I think there is a limit to this. You can very easily become scummy with this, and that's exactly what NBA 2K did, which is basically they provide a game, or they provide something that people like at its core, and they essentially just say fuck you to everything else. And even when their entire, as I said, their entire consumer base tells them to change something or fix something, they just say no, fuck you, we don't care. And you would think, oh well, people will stop playing the game, right? People will stop paying for the game and pay, paying the money, right? 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 No. Because at the end of the day, they are providing something that is still good at its core. They are providing a game that is still fun at its core. And they are essentially a monopoly on that specific thing. And this is why I come back to the cheese example. If they are the only cheese, you're still going to pay the $10. You're still going to pay the extra $5 on top of what you already used to pay, because you love that cheese and you want more of it. But again, the reason I believe it started with NBA 2K is because around that time, when they started kind of behaving like this, where they started basically just going fuck you to their players, refused to do anything, and just kept introducing, more and more predatory shit into their fucking newest releases, right? Around that time, if you guys have been around long enough, and if you guys remember, there was a video on YouTube many, many years ago where basically, and I don't know what this video was. I saw, I think, someone talking about this video. I didn't actually see the video itself, but basically it was a video by like game publishers for game publishers, like some sort of like presentation or something, right? Where a guy on stage was telling other like publishers and stuff like that or developers and publishers how to monetize their game, like microtransactions, right? And they were talking about how your game should always have something to buy, as in like it should take a player $50,000 to get everything in your game. That's ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what they were talking about. Like you should never run out of things to buy in your game and shit like that. And that video got popular exactly around the same time when I noticed that NBA 2K was talking about how they were making insane billions of dollars of profit in that year. And it was insane because, again, somehow, even though NBA 2K, they were doing their insane predatory practices in their games, somehow they were breaking records in their profits, right? It's insane. And so I think NBA 2K, Take-Two or whoever is running the NBA 2K franchise, they kind of realized something. They realized that as long as you provide a product that people like at its core, or like you provide something that people want, it doesn't really matter how much you increase the price. People will still pay. Now, of course, there's limits to this. Like, you can't increase the price over and over and over and over. But you can increase the price every so often. And you cannot increase the price to where it's unreasonable. Like, if the game, if GTA 6 here all of a sudden started costing $1,000, yeah, some people would still buy it, but most people would not. So it's kind of like, you cannot increase the price by like double. for instance. I think a lot of people, you know, if GTA 6 went from $60 and they increased it to $120, a lot of people would be like, nah, hell no, right? Now, a lot of people would still buy it, of course, but most people would be like, hell no. So another limit is you cannot increase it by like double the amount. But you can increase it kinda by like 50% or so, you know, like kinda like you can go from 50 to 75 and so on and so forth, right? And you can do this increase every couple of years. And then you have the dumb fucks who think, oh, it's inflation. It's inflation. Yeah, and I'm the fucking Queen of England. Jesus. It's not fucking inflation. Inflation doesn't just double the price of a product. That's not how that works. It just doesn't fucking make sense. And the thing is, they're right. And in the end, this is where we come to. Every AAA executive, please make GTA 6 Standard Edition cost 100 USD so we can have an easy excuse to increase our prices for our inferior products. And it's not even about the inferior products. It's about the fact that everybody in the market will start raising their prices. Why? Because other people are doing so, right? To go back to the cheese example, and this is, what I'm gonna leave you off on. In that cheese example that I provided earlier, there was only one cheese. Now imagine this new cheese example. Let's say that there's a healthy cheese market and everything costs, I don't know, $10. Every cheese costs $10, right? Or around the same market price. Now imagine if a new cheese comes out, a new product by some new company, a new cheese comes out, and it's maybe 20-30% better than all the other cheeses. You know, it tastes like 20-30% better, kinda, right? However, the price is $30. Now, a lot of people are going to buy that new cheese because they want to try out the new better cheese because it's 30% better, right? Okay. And a lot of people are going to be like, a lot of customers are going to be like, this is just way too expensive, even though they can afford it. But they're going to be like, it's too expensive. Maybe they'll try it on once and they'll be like, it's good, but you know, I'll stick with the cheaper cheeses because I'm not that big into cheese, right? Okay, sure. And that's kind of what it seems like gaming is right now, right? Until all the other companies that are selling the normal $10 cheeses, they see that this $30 cheese, this 30% better cheese, is getting a lot of money. They are making insane amount of money. And what do? Well, they figure out how they are making their cheese 30% better. And bear in mind, this 30% better cheese still takes the same exact amount of money to make as the $10 cheeses. So they're just straight up making more profit. It's not that the 30% better cheese takes more money to make or anything. It takes the exact same amount of money to make as the $10 cheeses. They're just selling it for $30. It takes the same amount of effort to make, but it just costs $20 more because it just tastes better by 30%. So a lot of these other cheese companies, they figure out, they make it their mission to figure out how this cheese tastes 30% better, right? And they figure it out and they start selling their own versions. They replace their $10 version with a $30 version saying, oh, inflation, by the way. And then they start selling their versions of $30 cheeses that are comparative to the first 30% better $30 cheese. Next thing you know, the entire cheese market is now $30. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds fucking familiar. GTA 6 comes out, sells for $100, and then everyone else is like, well, they're increasing their prices, right? And inflation and shit, right? So let us increase our price to $100 as well. And then next thing you know, the entire market is selling games for $99.99. And who gets fucked in the end? Us. We're the ones getting fucked.